for joining us today. It's May AAPI month, so we have some special guests in the studio from the film, entertainment, and music space. We're going to have a chat with them about their journey through the industry and learned who and what helped shape their careers along the way. So excited to have everyone joining us. Thank you to our esteemed panelists. And I'll start with the introductions. First, I would like to introduce writer, poet, and director Arianna Lady Basco, who's also founder of Bosco House and the Palms Up Academy. So good to have you here, Arianna Lady Basco. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Charles. Excited to hop in this.
My pleasure. It's going to be a great chat. And also from Los Angeles, happy to introduce music supervisor and music coordinator from Score a Score. And she also works with the Guild of Music Supervisors, Mindy Dinh. How's it going, Mindy?
It's going well. I'm so excited for this. I've been a fan of Blue Buddha Entertainment and this podcast for a long time. Eager to be fans of everyone here as well.
Oh, right on. Thank you, Mindy. Yeah, mutual respect, and thank you so much for joining us. And from there, happy to introduce two independent Blue Buddha artists. First, we're going to go up north to the Bay Area, and joining us is artist, producer Neil Sethi from Air Apparent, and you would have known him for his pop electronic sensibilities and the music he produces and records. Welcome, Neil. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going? Good to see you all, and really appreciate the opportunity to spend more time with some amazing artists, creatives, and always love talking to you, Charles. So pleasure to be here.
Oh, right on. Thanks, Neil. Good to have you on the panel today. I appreciate you. And then going down from the West Coast to the East, down to Florida, or actually you're in New Mexico today, we have Blue Buddha indie pop R&B soul artist Trynket, who's also working on a documentary that she'll tell us about today. Welcome, Trynket. Good to have you today.
Thanks so much, Charles. Thanks everyone for having me. Super excited to be here. Can't wait.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And so with that, we're going to hop into it. We got a couple topics we're going to talk about in the next hour. And the first question for the roundtable discussion is, when you all started out in the respective industries, whether film, music, space, did you have a mentor within the AAPI community? And if the answer is no, how did you navigate the issue of underrepresentation within your given field? So I think we'll open that up to Arianna, and then we can just go down the line. If you want to take that, Arianna.
Okay, I will take it, Charles. I would say my mentor growing up, a lot of my mentors, I think my personal mentor and really what shaped a lot of who I am as an artist and what I do, I would have to say, is my mom. The way that we came up, we were breakdancers in the Bay Area, and then she made an investment in us after they made a bad investment in real estate or something. And she said, "Oh, I want to be in charge of the next investment." And she took me and my brothers. I have 4 older brothers, some of who you know, Charles, down here to LA with $100 in her pocket and got us started, which is crazy because we're Filipino in the mid 80s and there is no representation. So for her, and she's not an artist, you know, my mom's not like a singer or artista from the Philippines. Like, she's just mom, you know, and she just believed in her kids, and kind of that little naiveness really got us here. But her ability to dream for us and dream big, and to see a vision for us that I don't even think, I mean, we're just kids too, you know? So the thing is like, us growing up as Filipinos, where we grew up in Pittsburgh, California, we didn't even know we were Filipino because there were so many Filipinos in the neighborhood. And it wasn't until we came here to LA and lived in these neighborhoods that they were like, oh yeah, you're not Black, you're not Latino, like who are you, what are you, so it wasn't until then we had kind of our own awakening to what a Filipino is. But yeah, I would say that that's like truly one of my main mentors in lifestyle, and always being grounded no matter what successes came our way, how to navigate family and value and still be the human that you are, truly and authentically, even with everything happening around us as it's been unfolding in Hollywood.
Yes, yes. No, that's really inspiring because it touches on some of your work in the space today here in Los Angeles. And Arianna, if you want to touch on about Bosco House and Palms Up Academy, because I think the through line is you continue the work that you were raised on and the morals that you just described, but would love to hear so our listeners could learn about.
Yeah, so absolutely. My I didn't go the there isn't a traditional route for us gold faced folks, for sure. But my brothers definitely went more that route, like with the agents and going out for shows and all of the things. My route was always different, and I was much more a little bit in the underbelly of societies, and really about holding space and crafting my artistry a little differently. So for years now, I've in different monikers. This moniker now is Bosco House Palms Up Academy. But I run an arts organization here in Los Angeles. And God, I don't know how to describe it other than our most accessible program is a mic that we do every Wednesday. We have other programs, but the whole thing about it is it's like a dose of humanity every week, which for me and my process of art, because now I did Fabulous Filipino Brothers. I'm in post-production for a few movies. I write and I direct and I produce, and I'm a poet and an author and all of those things. But I have also been holding space for over 15 years doing this work, and it's so important to my process because it keeps me grounded. And I always say in my art space in Palms Up Academy, like, this is really an extension of my home. This is really an extension that being an artist for me, whether I'm singing and playing guitar, whether I'm doing a movie, whether I'm an actor, whether I'm holding a boom, because whatever, today I have to hold a boom, whatever it is.
Yep.
It's a lifestyle. Being an artist is a complete lifestyle, and to be able to bring your whole self into every space, your non-negotiable I ams, So that's kind of what we really focus on. It's not even focus on. It's just the intersection that we live at, and I really pride myself in living in that intersection. And when I choose projects to do, whatever I'm signing up for, whether, again, like I just got pinned to write a poetry book, so I'm going to be doing that. But whether I'm directing or acting or whatever it might be, it's really imperative to me that I'm doing something that I care about, that I really care about, and it really speaks to the intersection that we live at.
No, hats off. And because I think it was back in May, if I'm not mistaken, you collabed with Sheehan, and it was the LA Get Down. Ruby Ibarra opened it. Celebration of hip hop and spoken word, and it was an amazing space, and I just felt the sense of family and community there. So everything you said there, and Arianna, we'll when we post this podcast up, we'll link to your organizations, and thank you for that recap, because I think everybody has a through line of their journey, how they first got into whether it's film or music. So I want to thread that needle to Mindy on the music supervision side. If you want to talk about, when you first entered the space, who was your mentor and how you found your way to here to Los Angeles, working at Score.
Yeah. Kind of from the tip-top beginning. Well, firstly, I just want to say, yes, please put all the links and whatnot at the end. Now I'm learning about LA Get Down, for example. Being plugged into the community here is something that I'm still kind of learning how to do and what resources are out there. So
Okay.
yeah, just a huge fan of everyone. But kind of from the beginning, I didn't grow up same as you, as a lot of folks here, just not a lot of people to look up to. But how I got into music supervision is I grew up knowing I was sensitive to music and media at a young age, like a lot of folks. But the movie that did it for me was The Parent Trap, the remake of it with Lindsay Lohan, and the music supervisor on it, Bonnie Greenberg, did an amazing job. I remember all of the needle drops on that movie, and that really shaped the way I listened to music growing up. Yeah, and you know, especially in the sync space, it's changing now, but my idea of it growing up, just there wasn't a lot of folks, not a lot of Asian folks in sync. A lot of the supervisors I looked up to were mainly white, and my first mentor, Jonathan McHugh, was white as well. But he was so supportive of me kind of breaking through this industry, and was so supportive of bringing me connections and showing me resources, teaching me the basics and the ropes from A to B. But I do have to give credit, A to Z, I do have to give credit to the person that introduced me to Jonathan McHugh. She knew I was a huge fan of him. She herself is a Vietnamese American, and I see her as like an older sister. And that kind of support was what got me my first connection, which got me even more connection. So it was really that the power in the relationship of supporting each other and lending a hand was amazing. So her name's Natalie. She also works in sync, and she just had a connection with Jonathan McHugh. And after working with McHugh, we were working on really cool projects, but I knew that I wanted to utilize my time and my resources to combine these two worlds that I'm really passionate about, which is the sync community and the Asian community. And I, as much as I love McHugh, I couldn't do that with him. So eventually I started reaching out to filmmakers on my own. I felt like I was brave enough to start music supervising just on my own, micro budget projects that could be student films, short films, whatever it may be. And just started getting experience. And after that, that was when I felt confident enough to do this full time. I didn't have the resources or the connections to go into music supervision full time, but my gateway there was to be a music coordinator and hopefully work my way up to being a music supervisor. And that's where I landed the music coordinator position at Score. And at Score, we work on so many amazing projects, and one that I'm really proud of that recently came out and had a screening at South by. It was a movie called Fremont, and it was centered around the story of a woman of color. We got to sync woman of color, and pretty much the entire production crew was women of color. So more projects like that is what kind of keeps me going and excited to be a part of this industry and community. But despite all that, I still feel like a little Padawan. I'm learning so much and being introduced by so many cool people. Like, the community is big, but it also feels small as well, in the sense of the intimacy levels that just every time that I've spoken to another Asian American working in the entertainment industry, it feels like a relationship that doesn't just last for the couple of hours that we speak. It's prolonging. So building relationships like that is something that I'm continuing to do, and hopefully can utilize and combine the two worlds of music supervision and Asian American community in the future.
No, congrats. It sounds it's just beginning, but and then you also parlayed your success, correct? Casey was there was, if you want to talk about Minnie briefly, you guys for AAPI month, there was a collaborative effort with pairing AAPI artists together to compose songs.
Yeah. So Nat, who I mentioned earlier, she's a sync agent in Austin. She has a company called SoundSync Music. Nat and Concord Music Publishing, a person named Myra, worked together to create this camp that they have done before. And last year, I believe they did like an Austin focused camp. This year, for May, they decided to open it up to Asians in AAPI. And they were trying to kind of loop in folks within the community that they knew would be interested in helping out and organizing, not so much as a songwriter, but just, organizing and listening through the songwriter submissions. And I was super happy that Nat hit me up, and she kind of knew that this was something that I would be interested in. And a huge goal of mine also is just to continue syncing Asian music. And she was like, yeah, help us out with this. And it was great. We just continued to spread the word amongst folks in the community, posting on socials, posting to our roster, and got a lot of really cool applicants, including Casey, who works really closely with Charles. And yeah, to kick off the camp, I produced a panel, looped in some supervisors to come and chat, and just a lot of these songwriters, a lot of them know about sync, but there's a few that don't know too much about it and writing the briefs and how that works. So bringing in supervisors to come give a little sync 101 and also talk about their experiences as an AAPI in sync was really enlightening. So it was such a pleasure to be able to produce a panel with folks that I've looked up to. And after that panel, the camp just kicked off, and people were writing music to really cool briefs. Some were like ad briefs, some were dramas and films and short films and stuff like that. And it just recently wrapped up, and we had like a listening party on Zoom. Everyone celebrated each other's work and just like realized how talented, doesn't have to be said or doesn't have to be reemphasized. Everyone knows how talented we are, but to experience it with each other in real time was really lovely. And then we had like a get together in LA to actually meet face to face, because the whole camp was virtual. There was folks from the East Coast, some folks from Texas that participated, but all the LA folks were able to get together and just connect. And it was such like a lovely human experience.
Amazing. Congrats on that. No. And a couple points just to thread the needle from the panel we had last week. 1 point, Ruby Barra is one of the composers, and she works with the composing team for Fox's The Cleaning Lady. And the importance of everything she was talking about is not only in front of the camera, but behind the camera, controlling that, if you will, or creating our own seat at the table, so that the storytelling's authentic, the music's authentic, and the whole through line. And I think that is what's amazing about everyone in the room today. Different skill sets, music, directors, writers, poets, and coming out through the other end is, having the conversation with Casey is that, coming out of these panels, continuing, like you said, Mindy, the relationships, a lot of times we're here in LA, life happens, we go to a panel, we go to a convention, we meet someone, but the follow through and the follow up, hey, let's set a goal 3, 4, 5 months from now. What projects can we be involved in? So following this, I'll make sure, everyone's linked together, because I think out of it comes great work. And congrats, Mindy, on the work you've been doing, and really excited to connect and see where we go from here. And with that, I think that's a great through line. We'll go back up to SF, to Neil, and you can share. We've been working together for a minute. We got Neil a sync in a upcoming episode of NCI Los Angeles. His music's amazing. And yeah, Neil, if you want to, I've been in the electronic scene for a minute, and I remember watching like Bjorg, and I think it was Talvin Singh, as far as your mentors in the Indian space, as far as like who were your mentors and how did you find your way into music and producing?
Yeah. Hey, so Yeah, it's a great question. Honestly, I didn't have a mentor necessarily. Growing up, like music was part of like the fabric of my upbringing, but when it came to taking music like more seriously, like in the electronic music world, it was like primarily white spaces with a few exceptions. I actually found a lot of support by like trying to make a deliberate effort to connect with Asian creative communities. So one of those was this is like this big Facebook group called Asian Creative Network, and this is a point in time where I wasn't really using Facebook. It was like something just like my parents used to like comment embarrassing things on pictures. But this was actually like an interesting community where like it was a bunch of Asians who are creative, and not all of them are full-time creatives necessarily, but they were just constantly posting like here's this thing I made, here's this shop I opened, here's this like output of media I've created. And I met this girl named Teresa Tuan, who is my like closest kind of songwriting partner, who's like both queer and AAPI, and so she had like a lot of interesting stories to tell. We immediately connected, both on our like immigrant upbringing, but also like noticing that in music, like many of us are in the music industry, but like our stories aren't necessarily told the same amount as some of our white peers. And so we decided like we didn't really want you know this kind of lacking type experience to like determine what we could be. Like what we didn't have shouldn't be like what reality is for us. So we made it our mission to actually write with other AAPIs. And our thought process was like, if there's so many of us in the music industry and we're like defragmented, the more we can connect with people to tell their stories, the more we can help like shift the conversation. So I've been lucky to actually just like hit up people in Instagram DMs and set up sessions with some amazing like AAPI musicians who inspire me. So shout out to like Emiya, Hunjia, Tony, Jaya. Through this focus, like was able to like meet some really like talented musicians, and I think that's sort of like my found community in that way, and I want to keep like expanding that. And then in the context of like Sync specifically, I'm like really excited to just see the rise of like content that like centers and champions AAPIs, like obviously like our Oscar winner, Everything Everywhere All at Once, but like also like Beef, Atlanta, Pachinko, Never Have I Ever, etc. And so like I love the idea of like people like Mindy and Charles here, like working on syncing more AAPI music alongside these pieces of content. So thank you for like helping drive that. And I'm excited to kind of continue to do my part to like get more of our stories heard, making the electronic playlists less just like white men, honestly, and like helping shift that conversation and stories that are being told.
Yeah, no, amazing. And to share a cool, our panelist from Netflix, executive music creative Rudy Chung, one of his tidbits from the panel that came out was, folks from the AAPI community to lean into our storytelling and authentic, don't sort of censor what we output thinking, oh, this will get me a better opportunity place, because he said frankly the studios and the productions look for the authentic music from the melting pot that we have here across music genres. And one thing to share, the media, it's sort of like when K-pop blew up, everyone's like, oh, there's just K-pop. No, there's Filipino music, there's Vietnamese music, Indian music, and it's just the cross section. So I think that's what excites me as a sync agent, being here in LA, but thinking globally, looking to all the artists across the planet that we can work with. And it's a quilt, which is a exciting notion. But thanks, Neil. Looking forward to hearing your additional music. And also, just a footnote before we get a trinket, feel free, fellow panelists, if there's something that sparks a through line, we can cross chat in this session. So Trinket, tell us about, I think, a great starting point to thread the needle. You have a great song called Island Girls.
Oh, yes.
That you wrote. And yeah, before you answer as far as mentorship goes, you can talk about that song and what inspired you to write that. But down at the time when you started your career, were you here in California, or were you already in Florida?
I didn't really pursue it seriously, music, until I moved to LA. That was back in 2014. But before that, I grew up in Florida. I'm from Philippines. I was born in Cebu, Philippines. Then my family and I immigrated to the US when I was 5. And I grew up in Florida since then. But um, but yeah, going back to the Island Girls song, I wrote that a couple years ago, and that was my first song where I really wanted to talk more about where I'm from and, Philippines, and spotlight Cebu and some of the other beautiful parts of the Philippines. And I wanted to make like a fun, catchy pop song that, everyone could sing along to, and one that would be memorable. And I had no idea how well it would do. And I'm just an indie artist. I don't have like, a huge major label backing or anything, but I put it out there and it got on a bunch of editorial playlists. Um, that year, I think 2021, I got on 14 Spotify editorial playlists, which was really not expected. So a lot of people loved it, especially girls like me. I think a lot of island girls, whether they're Filipino or Caribbean, they
Mhm.
felt like it spoke to them, and some of them reached out to me online. They were like, "I'm so glad you wrote like an island song. Like I feel like I'm being seen."
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I ever since then I've just been kind of just immersing myself back to where I come from and my culture and my heritage, and um, it's been an amazing experience, eye-opening experience, and this is kind of a new thing for me to dive into the AAPI communities. Like, I'm so amazed that we have so much opportunities now. I know, there's a lot of room for improvement, but growing up,
Yeah.
I didn't have those kind of resources. I didn't
Mhm.
have any
Mhm.
AAPI mentors, aside from my parents who are pretty musical, but they didn't pursue that like as a career. They're in the medical field. So I
Mhm.
was definitely the
Mhm.
oddball in my family.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. It's a good through line. I think, you know, interviewing Casey the other day on a podcast, similarly, he said the same thing. He said, I think it was until the onset of social media, IG really promoting AAPI month. Casey was like, I didn't know what it was, until, it's the awareness. And I think same thing, the through line with music. Shona Knife, Pizzicato 5, James Iha, the Smashing Pumpkins. There's a handful, and then until K-pop blew up. I worked at Capitol Records in the 90s, and I think it was like at some point they were trying to break, you know, an Asian singer and have her go mainstream here in the US. But, this it at its timing, and it's awareness, and at the end of the day, music is what unites us. So I think, Trinket, you brought some great points there, and the collaborative effort of our communities is critical. And I think that's a great segue to the next question is mentorships and advice. So on our last panel, we talked about various mentorship programs. We'll post links from your experience of mentors or mentees. What advice would you have to listeners who are looking to follow your same path, whether it's film or music? Is there one nugget you could tell them? Hey, my path might have been harder, but your path doesn't have to be the same way. There's resources out there. So whoever wants to take that, and we'll thread that needle.
Yeah, I can mention that despite having a really great mentor, early on, Jonathan McHugh, I still feel like I want to continue being mentored. Um, so I'm still the Padawan, and this time I want to be mentored in the space of the Asian community. And I was able, very, very luckily, got in as a mentee for a program organization called Asian American Collective. And maybe Rudy might have mentioned this during his panel because I believe he was featured on their site before, but it's a great resource that I've just kind of come across recently and really wanted to take advantage of it. a lot of Asian folks within the community, and especially in entertainment, they sign up to be mentors. And then, the folks behind Asian American Collective will do their best to pair you up with kind of your area of interest. And I was very lucky to get paired with someone at Netflix named Tina Chen. She works on the supervision side of like promos, ads, trailers, which is a media that I'm not as familiar with, as I only mainly work on film, TV, and ads, but trailers, that's a whole different world. So being mentored by her, yes, I am interested in these forms of medias that she works on, but I think an advice that I'm giving, I'd love to give to folks, and I'm kind of utilizing it myself right now, is you can get advice that's not related to your professional interests. You can ask like, how are you finding space in this community that, in this industry where, folks don't look like you or don't understand your experiences, or how are you maintaining relationships with the folks that you do come across that have the same upbringing or dissimilar upbringings, but are also Asian. Just those are advice that I think I could have received if I had like an older sibling, I'm sure. But like just on a personal level, I think you can see these mentorships not just as like a professional gain, but a personal, like how do I like grow up in this kind of industry and continue to maintain the relationships I have, or how do I even find relationships? Where do I go to? Where do you go to? Kind of question. So, and I think something that we mentioned earlier is that there's you mentioned that Ruby mentioned there's, the on camera and behind the camera. Advice that I would give is that if we're, rooting for representation, don't only root for the on-screen talent, root for Asian writers, Asian musicians, Asian producers, people that are holding the boom, there's a lot of pockets that we want to support, and don't treat on-screen representation as the end-all be-all of Asian representation. There's a lot of hands in the mix that we don't remember or don't really give credit to. So like the writer strike going on right now, be there for your Asian writers. I think that's important. And that will also, even if you're trying to be mentored and you still haven't really figured out the space, that's your step one. You don't really have to connect with someone whose goals are different than yours. Just that connection in itself is kind of a good first step.
Yeah, no, and to echo that, Mindy, to unpack it, well said. Rudy Chung had shared with his story. He started out as an intern for Hit the Ground Running as a music supervisor. He later went on to be the partner with his boss, who mentored him over the years, because Rudy his big piece was be present. If there's a mentor-mentee relationship, be present, have that open dialogue, and be all in. And Rudy just shined, and that's where it grew for him to grow from an intern to a music supervisor and partner there. So thanks, Mindy. That's some real good insights, and I appreciate your input there. And then the through line when you were talking about that, back to you, Arianna Lady Basco, was listening to your brother's Dante Bosco's podcast, and correct, you were on a production where it kind of echoes what Mindy was talking about. You were costume designing, multiple hat wearing, right? And it was a great experience. And if you want to share that nugget, and you were saying much respect for all the roles in a production.
Yeah, all the roles. I came on to that production as one of the producers, but production, sometimes you got to do the things that you got to do. And yes, I was coordinating the wardrobe. And for that particular production, it was crazy because they had filmed half the movie like 4 years ago, and then we were coming back in and dropping in. So we had to like find all the wardrobe, make it work, continuity and all these things. So yeah, it takes a village to make anything happen, right? To do anything, and movie making, music making, no less. It takes a village. The work that you guys are doing, syncing, you write a song, but you also have to get that song produced, and you got to work with the producer, and you got to get the right space, and you got to coordinate that, and then, oh my God, the drummer didn't show up. Okay, I got to go get another one. And then you get it, then everybody's there, and then you record it, and then something goes down, and you got to call somebody to fix the thing, and then now you have the product, and then now how do I put this online? What do I do? SoundCloud, Spotify? Like where do I go? Then you find a sync. There's so many moving parts to for it to actually get to the right ears, to the right eyes that will affect someone, that they're then sitting there going, yo, Trynket, I'm so happy that you wrote that song. I feel so seen, right? It's a lot of work that comes for that. So, but yeah, mad respect to every part of the process. And then that's part of what I would kind of say to people, that when you're in this industry, having faith that every yes is on time and every no is on time. It's right on time. And having faith in that. And you're going to get a lot of no's. That's just part of it, right? But everyone is right on time. It did you a favor. And that there is no top to this industry. This is not like a battle to the top. We're going to meet each other in the middle. And in the middle is ourselves, is ourselves and our truth. Because you can have it all, but be so empty, right? The real true middle is, hopefully we're doing this because it makes us happy. Like, of course we want to monetize it. Of course we want to do what we love and have, and there's value in that, right? So, but in that journey to the middle, there's going to be a lot of no's. Don't spend all your time yelling at the people that are saying no to you. Get out, pull your toys out of the bucket, gravitate to the people who see and hear you. You shouldn't have to work that hard to be seen or heard. You don't need your armor when you're amongst your tribe. And when you find those people, fucks with them, be about it. Like, be there. You shine, I shine. Be about that support. That's part of what Palms Up Academy is. Like, those are my people. They're not only my people. I mean, of course I have other people in other realms, and everything is everything. Mm-hmm. But for too long, I think, for some people's lives, whether it's professional or personal, we fight with wanting to be seen and wanting to be heard. You don't have to work that hard. Look up. There's people listening to you. There's people wanting to be part of your life and participate in that, and really nurture that. And when you find those people, then you're in a place of like wellness and creativity. Yeah. Because if you're only fighting that, it's very empty. It makes it about things that, I don't know. Some people call that passion, or maybe that makes people more passionate. And some people have the thought that like that adversity like fuels them. Yeah. Yes. But that's not how I want to wake up in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, I want to wake up. I want to wake up and be able to look at myself in the mirror and know my name. And when I go to bed at night, I want to know who my people are. And I don't want it all to be dictated upon whether or not I got this or I didn't get this, or, Yeah. So I think we're all fighting to be in the middle, really. And it's not even a fight. It should be a journey. It should be this glorious, beautiful, constantly trajectory changing, exciting journey to the middle.
Great. No, I love it. And to bookend it from our panel last week, Jackie Shu from Rogue Planet, she touches on what you said, Arianna, there, and same with you, Mindy, and then we'll turn it to Neil and Trynket, but access to the pipeline. The biggest takeaway that Jackie shared is, once you have access and those connections, foster those relationships. Don't let it die. Because once we all have a seat at the table, like you said, Arianna, it's like we're building that NBA championship team. There's no I in team. Everybody has their role, and if everyone has that winning spirit, everyone what's bringing to the table, that's critical. And then everyone makes each other stronger. Instead of just filling yourself with a team of yes people, then the end product is going to be subpar. So finding everyone's strengths and weaknesses. And the last basketball analogy I'll use there is having short-term memory. Like you said, Arianna, you lose 5 games, you miss 5 shots, you keep shooting. Kobe Bryant Black Mamba mentality was, hey, there's 4 quarters in a game. We're down 50. We got to get, there's 1 more quarter. And if he didn't have that mindset, he wouldn't have had 4 rings on his hands.
Well, yeah.
So
to speak to
anyway,
that, though, you said it before too about really being unique and sync licensing. Y'all were talking about like really being your authentic voice, and that's what they want. Don't try to be something else. Don't try. And I completely agree. Like it doesn't mean, look, if you're not a cook and you suck at cooking, you don't have to be a cook. You don't have to be a cook. Why do you, if you want to work on that, if you want like, I really want to actually learn that. And I really want to be able to provide that for my community. I want to learn how to cook. I want to be able to cook for my children. All right, then do that. Then put in the time and do that. But if you're not a good cook and you don't enjoy it, that doesn't make you less of a person. Go do what you're magnificent at. The same way like that I'm saying, like gravitate to the people who see you, gravitate yourself to the things that you are magnificent at and continue to hone that and continue to carve that out and create that and see different ways that manifests. Sometimes it manifests, in music. Sometimes it manifests in film. Sometimes it manifests differently in different friendships and different connections. And really be aware of that, because these are like the facets of yourself. You can't expect other people to see and hear you if you don't even know yourself. When you're trying to do a million things, you're like a jack of all trades, but master of none. Work on your shit,
right.
Sorry, am I allowed to cuss?
Well said. You're good.
Excuse me.
No worries. No, thank you. No, I echo that +1. Trynket or Neil, if you guys want to take that as far as a bit of advice.
Sure. I think this kind of harmonizes with what Arianna and Mindy were talking about. But if you don't see, people that look like you, or you don't find enough mentors, don't be afraid to take the torch. Don't be afraid to create a table for yourself, or a seat at your own table. I forget the saying. But yeah, I didn't have that growing up. Like I said, like when I started piano lessons at 5, all the students were white. My teacher was white. When I went to film school for college, everyone was white, mostly male white in my classroom. And I just had to tell myself, you know what? I'm just going to do my thing. I'm going to keep doing, what I love. And even though there's nobody else that looks like me, I'm just going to keep carrying that torch, and hopefully it'll inspire other people who look like me. And thankfully it has, because I kept just, going. And a lot of people that look like me, females especially, have reached out and said that I've inspired them through my music videos and, little things I've directed and done. But yeah, it's been an amazing experience. So I just want to encourage everybody to, take that torch.
Amazing. And you're doing that as well with, I know it's still in the process, but if you want to touch on it, we can share it in the future with our listeners. You're working on a documentary?
Yes, I am, slowly. I started it a couple years ago. Like I said, I didn't have anyone, that looked like me that was doing what I was doing. So I was like, you know what? I need to make something and show people my process. Maybe this will speak to more people like me later, but I'm documenting everything I'm doing in music, things I'm doing in film. Hopefully I'll get it out there next year. We'll see.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm really excited about it.
No, I love the trailer. We'll put the link in it because it's inspiring between the music and what you're cutting into picture. So really looking forward to that. So thanks for sharing those insights. And then Neil, as far as a bit of advice, because you're a trailblazer, like you said, in the electronic pop space as far as representation. I know you have a lot of followers and you carve your own path, which you're doing. But yeah, one bit of advice you would have for someone looking to follow the path?
Yeah, my brain's spinning because all of you offered so much advice, and I don't think anything I'm about to say doesn't just like echo what you've said. So I'll try to keep it brief, but like here's like 4 nuggets I would say. One is like I think leaning into and not away from what makes you different is like always the right choice. Good or bad, I think the best music comes from like an authentic place. The best songs connect to people universally, but they do so because of the unique and specific perspective. So I think tapping into that and doing whatever it takes to get into that place to write from and create from, whether it's like journaling or talking to your family about your roots or connecting with other people like you, I think that's always going to be yielding the most authentic and interesting content, which people will find and gravitate towards naturally. Second is like I think everyone's path is different. So if you have like an AAPI hero who has done it, don't like overly fixate on their path as like the way to do it, rather than just like look at it as proof that it's possible, but forge your own path. Third, and this is one I really struggled with, is like don't be afraid to ask for help. Like reaching out to people who inspire you. You might never hear from them, but you'd be surprised how often they are willing to help and lend an ear. And like last but not least, and related to that, is like champion your heroes. Like I've literally met and written with some musicians I've like found inspiring and like fanboyed about just by like shouting them out on Spotify playlists or on Instagram, being like, I love this is great, you all should listen to this. And so it's led to like DMs and then sessions, and so it's been really inspiring. And I think it's an example of how when you tap into like who you are and your place and your authentic joy about one of your heroes, you never know what could unfold. So
Yes, no, I love it. Especially, I really resonate with all your points, but the third and fourth one particularly. And I think, for next year, Mindy and all our panelists, we're going to chat more, because I think, the feedback that we got from fellow colleagues at, Music Supervision in the studios was so huge and supportive of the work we're doing. So it just echoes, continuing on the path. And I really appreciate everybody. The time flies by, but I think, once we post this podcast up, we'll have all the links to everybody's information. And then we can, what I said in the last panel is the key thing is we started the dialogue about the importance of continuing the work of representation and inclusivity, because the important fact is out of that, it will help build leaders of tomorrow. So everybody's work is critical here, and I really thank and appreciate you all. And it was a great chat, and online and offline we'll continue this for AAPI month. And what Casey said best is every day should be AAPI, that mindset, continuing our work. It's not just 1 month out of the year, but really striving to make everyone stronger and better in what we do. And we love this industry that we work in, and we're blessed to, because we could all be working elsewhere, but like you said, Arianna, it's finding your passion, finding your soul, and it's like oxygen to us. Film, music, entertainment, the whole cross. See you on the other side. Namaste. Charles from Blue Buddha at SyncRiffs. Thank you guys so much, and hang tight, guest, and we'll see you on the other side. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Charles.
Go.